Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. All right, former NFL scout. He hosts Three and Out podcast, hardest working guy in this business, and totally tied into the San Francisco 49ers, who hold on to beat Dallas 30-24. I didn't think it would be that close. We'll spend 15, 20 minutes on this. Listen, there are things San Francisco does well. They run the ball. They had, 200 yards rushing. Dallas doesn't run the ball. We knew that going into the season. I thought they adjusted really well at halftime tonight. They were really struggling stopping Dallas in the first half. Dallas was getting a push, and then they kind of exploded in the third quarter. I do not trust this Niner pass rusher team late in games. They've been burned late in games. I thought Brock Purdy really struggled low, off target, early. I thought later in the second half to gain confidence, he used his legs a little bit, started moving, kind of gained confidence, hit on some nice throws. Kittle had a great night. I think there's a difference between Dallas and San Francisco. I think San Francisco is a good team that is just physically, like the Rams in the first month, just beat up. They just don't have enough good players.
Yeah.
I think Dallas is a bad team that actually played pretty well tonight. They got a break when a couple of Niners banged into each other and CeeDee Lamb got a wide open touchdown. And I've been saying this for a while. Dallas almost, if you're a Cowboy fan tonight, you're like, wow, we made it competitive at the end. I think they got to take a swing, John. I think they have to do something in the offseason. I think they have to sell some pieces, get two high draft picks. I don't see the way out for Dallas. Dak is ordinary. They're paying him a fortune. They're locked into him. If CeeDee Lamb twisted his ankle, they don't have a guy on this offensive roster that you would be forced to roll coverage over. I think it's, despite the score tonight, I think it's grimmer for Dallas than people think, especially with Washington now, like looking like the next decade, they're going to be locked in with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, this is not a game I guess you need to worry about most people box score scouting because everyone watches it. But that score, I mean, they scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game. One of the drives was a 70-second drive, which, is pretty unheard of in the NFL. Obviously, the Niners, the first touchdown drive playing way off. You know what hit me tonight is the 49ers have beat these guys now 4 times in a row. Twice in the playoffs. They mollywopped them last year on Sunday Night Football, and they were up in this game 27-10, missing a lot of guys. This matchup, which is one of the biggest matchups of my life in terms of brands and the history, is currently Kyle Shanahan, who's, for a young guy who's been coaching in the NFL for 20 years, and his dad is one of the most famous offensive coaches of all time, so he's been around football his whole life. And John Lynch, who currently last year or 2 years ago just went into the Hall of Fame. That's the 49ers brass building this team against an 80-plus-year-old Jerry Jones. It was like, this is not really a fair fight because it's not like they both hit on some high-end players, Micah, CD, Nick Bosa, right? I mean, they've both hit on trade for Trent Williams, paying a bunch of money. But the 49ers team is littered with guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. That Isaac Guerendo is a 4th-round rookie running back. And boom, plug and play. What's the whole thing? Cowboys, no running back. They're playing Zeke, who can't run away from me or you, who's a tough physical guy, but can't move. They draft Isaac. Well, guess what? I think he went a couple picks right after the pick that they traded for Trey Lance, who is their 3rd-string quarterback. Right. And listen, I admire Jerry's, clearly from a business standpoint, he's been incredible for 30-plus years. I mean, hell, they sell practice facility tours to make a little extra income. But that he tried to strike oil on that one. And sometimes he does that, and you're not going to strike oil, Jerry. Like, you're going to take Kyle. Who are you bidding against on that one? And the other quarterbacks in his draft class who are way better went for like 6th and 7th round picks. Fields, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. So that's kind of a microcosm of Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. But you could just go around. Les Snead, Sean McVay. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Gutekunst, LaFleur. How is Jerry compete? The NFC, even, the Eagles, Sirianni's under question, but no one questions Howie's intelligence. So from a football standpoint, in that conference, doesn't have the high-end quarterbacks of the Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, but it does have very, very high-level front office and football guys, coach and GM combos that I would say and have built very, very good teams. Because you watch the
Yeah.
Cowboys, they got injuries. Like you said, how many guys are on the sideline for the Niners? Hell, halfway through the game, Debo's got his 17th injury of
Yeah.
the season, and he's in the blue tent. Didn't even matter. But to me, that score, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're on the edge of your seat those last couple of minutes. Not really indicative of what we witnessed when the Niners really put pedal to the metal there and when the game
Yeah, I
mattered.
mean, what's discouraging is for a long time, the Niners were 50% on third down. With a lot of time to play, they had 450 yards. They didn't play.
And Purdy was, like you said, atrocious.
Oh, he
in the
was
first
bad.
half, missing basic
Yeah,
throws.
underneath stuff like layups, and beat up. I mean, they have like 7 starters out. It's just, this is almost encouraging for Dallas because they were competitive.
Off a bye, though, with Jerry talking a bunch of crap, they were kind of motivated. I don't know. I thought they threw the kitchen sink and they ran out of juice.
That's what I think. I mean, Mike McCarthy actually, he's not Andy Reid, but he's top 5 or 6 coach in the league off a bye. So, and they had a very solid first half, and then again, you can only tweak. I mean, it's just interesting to watch. Like Ricky Pearsall, he got a little run. I mean, they're using Cowling on punts. They're getting a lot of different guys involved. And it's funny in the NFL, you're allowed to whiff. I mean, John Lynch has whiffed on some guys. I mean, he's taken swings and missed on guys. That wide receiver from SMU, he was a 2nd or 3rd round pick, Gray.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah.
So I mean, got
long.
Yeah, I mean, now. Les Snead and McVay missed on Logan Bruss, the 2nd round guard, who's just a perennial backup, 2nd round guard. Tutu Atwell, he'll be gone here soon. So I mean, it's okay to miss. People miss all the time. Pete Carroll had hits, he had misses. I mean, he had Rashad Penny in the 1st round as a running back. That never panned out really. So, no. But it's just, I just feel San Francisco, also the advantage that San Francisco has, they're better at drafting, but they also have a coach that has a certain style. So stylistically, there are things you can draft that almost always work with Shanahan, like running backs, slot receivers. They almost always work because, it's like they're like with Andy Reid. I mean, they've missed on some wide receivers, which, by the way, is the hardest position to draft in the 1st round in the NFL because, I mean, for a lot of reasons, a lot of times you get a mature quarterback. He's just not patient. He just doesn't want to wait for some kid to figure out the routes. They don't trust him. That was Brady in New England. He just didn't trust guys.
Historically, it was one of the bigger busting positions to the last 6 or 7 years when the college football changed.
But I feel like with San Francisco, when you got the coach right and you have a player and a GM and a coach relationship that's strong, you kind of know where to draft. I mean, like the guy George Patton in Denver with Sean Payton. If you look at Sean Payton's history, Mickey Loomis in New Orleans drafting for Sean Payton, he knew positions that worked for Sean, so he didn't miss on certain positions. Dallas, it feels like you're just kind of taking the best value in the draft, and you're not quite. I mean, they've hit on their 1st round picks, but a lot of misses, a lot of, Tyron Smith. They hit on Zach Martin. They hit on CeeDee Lamb. They hit on Micah Parsons. They've been pretty good in the 1st round, but I don't feel like they find enough elite. They don't find like San Francisco, Kittle 5th round, Jennings 6th round, Brock Purdy 7th round. I don't feel like Dallas creates that. Now for this week's next segment, Halftime Speech, brought to you by our friends at Scott's Lawn Care. The Jets have lost their 3rd straight game since firing Robert Saleh. This is what happens when you fire the best coach on your staff. The Jets are now in last place, embarrassing in the AFC East. Their only wins, Patriots and Titans. Bet you didn't know fall's the perfect time to feed your lawn. Give your lawn a boost with Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard. Recover from the summer and prep for winter. Scott's Winter Guard puts your grass on the road to recovery from damage caused by the summer heat. Feed your lawn Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard this fall to build strong, deep grass roots. Strengthen it for the winter. Secure your fall fun for your family. Pick up a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard today. Feed your lawn. Feed it.
Well, look at that last drive when they get the ball back. There wasn't 45 seconds left. There was almost 3 minutes with a 2-minute warning. You could just run a normal drive. What do they can't run the ball. Well, Garendo is the 49ers. He's not their backup running back. He's their third string running back. Because, I mean, what would they do to have Garendo or Jordan Mason on their team? But they can't run a normal drive because they can't run the ball. So they have to attempt to throw it. And they go basically 4 and out, right? And the game immediately ends. And this gets back to building the team. Like, I get where Jerry's like, we didn't have the money. Derrick Henry would not have looked like he did on the Cowboys. But you should be able to find good running backs with ease midway through the draft, undrafted free agents, guys for a couple millions on the scrap heap. Instead, what did Jerry do? Kind of like Bill at the latter end of his career with coaches, right? Brings back all these guys. Zeke Elliott? Like, who else? How is Zeke Elliott getting run for you? It doesn't make any sense. So this is what happens when, like, ultimately there has to be some checks and balances. You think John and Kyle agree all the time? No, but they have an offensive philosophy, a defensive philosophy, and they can find middle ground and they can help each other out. Veach and Andy are the best example. Like, personnel guys and coaches butt heads, it's natural. One guy's living in the moment, the other guy sees it, kind of from a 40,000-foot view sometimes. And Jerry has no balance. He's not listening to anything Mike's telling him. I mean, Steven is in a tough position as his son. It's like maybe he can influence him a little, but at this point in time, we all know anyone that's ever been around a really, really old guy who has a lot of money, they're naturally very stubborn. And Jerry is that on steroids clearly right now. I mean, the words he said. I mean, that article that came out this week about the tours, to me, that is not coming out if everything hadn't happened the previous couple weeks. It was ripe for the taking right there. And Jerry, like, that is a product of Jerry Jones. No one was talking about those tours were going on last year when they were 12-5 and hosting a playoff game, but no one cares, right? But the moment you start leaking oil, things get weird. Jerry's being, I mean, he's being, it's a little different, but he's got some Al Davis 2007 vibes right now, doesn't he?
The other thing is, watching this is that I don't see a big separation with Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. The difference is Brock is free and Dak's 60 million. I mean, when I watch them play, they both can be a little spotty with their accuracy. I think at this point, Brock runs better than Dak. I think Dak ran better about 3 years ago, but Dak's, he's been banged.
For sure.
So I think Brock runs better. I think accuracy, they're both kind of the same. Neither has a big arm downfield, good enough. They both see the field particularly well. They're both grown-ups. I feel like pre-snap, they're both fine. But the difference is one's free and one is now paid top of the league. And so, I mean, and you got that thing hasn't even kicked in yet. So I look at the NFC, John, and I've said this. I'm watching Detroit today kick the what out of Tennessee. Detroit may be the best team in the league. And here comes Washington, and Chicago can play. Philadelphia had its best game in forever today. Green Bay is just stacked offensively if Jordan Love can stay healthy. I think the Rams are going to go on a run here now. Now that they got their receivers healthy, if they can get their interior O-line healthy, I think they'll go on a run. Hell, Arizona's a tough out. Week to week,
they're 4-4. They're technically in first place right now in the division.
So I mean, let's concentrate on San Francisco instead of lamenting the Cowboys. I do think if they can get healthy in the next 6 weeks, what's their ceiling?
I think they can compete for a Super Bowl because they've beat all these teams, all the teams you just rattled off. I mean, they've owned Sean McVay. They actually play the Lions and the Packers here coming up, and they beat both those two teams. Now they got them at home, and right now they're not hosting those teams, even if they pull off this division, right? I mean, it looks like Detroit's going to be the number 1 seed. They get a bye right now. So you're 4-4, you take a deep breath. This season has been the season from hell. To me, every team has it. But what are your standards? The Jets have it, they're done. The Niners have it. It's like 4-4. Okay. Does Christian McCaffrey come back in 2 weeks? And then their schedule opens up a little bit. At Tampa, who just lost their best 2 players, and they gave everything they had today, and it's just not going to be enough, and they're in shambles. Then they get Seattle, who they own. So you could look up pretty quick, and then the 49ers are 6-4, and they can take a deep breath. Now they have a trip where they go, I don't know the order, but it's at Green Bay and at Buffalo. So, I mean, those 2 games, and then they play Detroit at home late in the season. So to me, if you can win one of those 3 games, handle some division games. Like this could be a 10-7 team, win the division. And then the one thing, the advantage you have is a coach and a bright lights, battle hardened team. Like you saw George Kittle tonight. Lights are the brightest, Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to fucking dominate. And same with Fred Warner, same with Nick Bosa. So they are not going to be intimidated by any of these teams. Now, they need Christian McCaffrey back. They need Deebo Samuel to stay healthy. And Dre Greenlaw would help as well. But these guys are all, I mean, I think Deebo will be fine. But if they can get Christian back, like that would be a pretty big addition. There's not a, if you tell me Christian McCaffrey's 85% of the guy we saw last year, I mean, there's not a team in the league that could trade for a better player given what he means to this team, right?
I do wonder about the defense. Third coordinator defensively in 3 years. The pass rush is
they weren't that good. They weren't that good last year though when they made the Super Bowl.
But the NFC's better. I think. I mean, Green Bay was too young. Now they're not. Detroit was the hunter. Now they're the hunted. I think they're better. Washington's real. I mean, I think Atlanta's a tough out. And if you had to go to Atlanta, Atlanta's the kind of team.
I think the Niners would like their chances in that one. The NFC North would be a problem for them. I think Kirk Cousins, they'd be licking their lips because non-mobile quarterbacks, they historically have been really good, even though their pass rush isn't as good. To me, the Jordan Loves, the Detroit, they don't have a mobile quarterback, but their offense is so
Do you think the Niners are well coached defensively?
Yeah, I think one thing that's hurt them that I think their coaches probably got too much credit. I mean, D'Amico was legit, but Saleh probably got too much credit. And when they've played well this year and last year is when you just got 4 great pass rushers. Yeah. I mean, that's a D-line coach and just pure talent. Yeah. That makes everyone look better. I do think their defensive backs are pretty good. And obviously Fred Warner is, the best linebacker in the league. Do they have Steve Spagnuolo or, Brian Flores? No, they do not. But they do have on every level good players. So I don't know what the hell happened there down the stretch. That was pretty embarrassing, especially it's one thing if a couple random guys break plays, but 88, that cannot happen. But I do think they have the talent to compete with all these teams. Would I bet my money for them to win the Super Bowl as we sit here right now or to win the NFC? I would not. But no team in the NFC, and it includes the Eagles, who got to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, have had more recent playoff success than the 49ers. They've won on the road. They've won at home. They're coaching mismatch, their player mismatch in terms of their comfortability in those moments. I mean, they have a lot of guys who have been through the ringer. So they'll probably be an underdog if they're on the road in Green Bay or, Detroit or whatever. But you wouldn't just say, God, obviously health, impacts this. You wouldn't say they would have no shot in these games. The other thing, as you saw in that game, once Dak shattered his ankle, he clearly has never moved the same. Purdy, that looked a little like the second half in some of those playoff games where he just gets you some extra first downs and he doesn't turn the ball over. When he turns the ball over, the Niners offense is bad. When he doesn't and they run the ball, they tend to win.
At halftime, it was fairly clear that Kyle had told him, you know what, we're going to move, run, keep it yourself. And I also think, to Purdy's credit, I think, I used to say this about LeBron. For most of his career, he'd lose confidence in the jumper and he'd say, okay, I'm just going to take it to the basket. And then over the course of 2 or 3 games, he'd hit some jumpers and he'd get his confidence back. I thought Purdy lost his confidence a little bit in the first half. He threw behind a couple of receivers. He threw low, and it kind of felt like, and he knew it. And it kind of felt like, okay, I'm just going to start moving here a little bit. I want to kind of get the mojo back. And I thought he did. And I think he's a pro athlete. And then I thought he got confidence back. And then it's like getting your jumper back. And then he made a couple of big throws down the field, one really nice throw to Kittle. And so I thought in the second half was a truer copy of what Brock Purdy is. I thought he had a bad first half. I thought in the second half, that's a truer version of him.
I think the thing with him is we just need to put him into context, separate from the contract. He's not as good as the top guys, but when he plays well, he can be good as that next tier that you can win a lot of games with as you build the team. And my whole thing is, if you have any question marks, you would just play it again next year. This isn't one of those where the Niners are some poverty franchise like the Jags. We got to give him $200 million. And then you regret it. No, take a deep breath. He's making a bunch of money. He loves being here. There's no better spot for him. And this is a fluid situation, but he plays like that, plays winning football. like he's got a place with Kyle, because that's the other thing with this coach. You kind of need a specific type quarterback. The one problem with the Niners is, and we talk about this all the time, is their offense can be so run
Yeah.
dependent because the pass then comes off that. They can't really. The one thing the McCarthy and Dak have no problem doing, spread it out, playing the shotgun like they're comfortable. A lot of teams all over the NFL. It's not really the 49ers passing
No.
game.
No, they're not a come from behind team necessarily. Now, I mean, I think they tend to get leads because I think they're really schematically ahead of the curve. So I mean, when you watch them play, there's just two or three things I always feel like. They always have a good early drive. They always run the football. They almost always have a pass rush. They create turnovers. I mean, there's a lot of really good things that they do. They're not special at quarterback, but in the second half, when you watch Purdy, you're like, oh, I get it. They move the pocket. Um, I just, I think you have to feel, if you're San Francisco tonight, 30-24 over Dallas. You played a pretty poor first half. Your quarterback was off. You're missing 7 to 8 key players. Debo gets hurt in the game. And you're like, we won. I mean, we got 500 yards of offense. I think in the end, I mean, they lose tonight. They're 3-5.
Oh, it would have felt like the season,
No,
and
I
it
mean,
would have been a
you would have had to
disaster.
look yourself in and go, do we peel off a guy or two at the trade deadline? Like, we have to get picks.
Yeah, it would have been one of the worst losses I've ever seen in my entire life of watching this franchise. And for a minute, you're on the edge of your seat. You're like, this isn't really going to happen. I do think there's something to be said when you have a coach and you have the core of your team that has seen it all, good and bad. And that's one thing the Chiefs have. I know they've won the 2 Super Bowls, but they've also gone through some crazy bad stretches these last couple of years. They're very comfortable in every environment. And the 49ers over the course of these last 3 years have had slow starts. I think 22, they started 3-5. So it's like they are used to some madness for a really, really good team. And they're comfortable in these environments. Now, they got some big games. They got to get guys back. But it all comes down. If Purdy's playing well, they have a chance to beat anybody. When he plays like he did last week against the Chiefs, they become very average to below quick because their defense, like you said, it's not as dominant in years past, but at any moment they could get an interception. Yeah. Fred can force a fumble. They have they could be disruptive at a moment's notice, and all of a sudden they get the ball and flip a field like that. That they're not as likely to hold you to 200 yards. And those days are done.
30-24 San Francisco over the Cowboys.